The Caribbean is a melting pot of diverse people, cultures, and environments. From the sandy beaches of tourist-friendly Barbados to the oil-producing twin state of Trinidad and Tobago to the mainland territories of Guyana and Suriname, whose landscapes are dominated by rainforests and large rivers, this region, like many other parts of the world, is seeking to reposition itself to best meet the demands posed by global financial woes, growing populations, the increased need for resources, and escalating oil prices. As volatility continues to be the order of the day on the international oil market, it is some comfort to us that some member states are relatively well positioned to enjoy the benefits of energy security. Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname are producers and exporters of petroleum, and Barbados has modest reserves of natural gas. Suriname and Guyana both have significant potential for hydropower, and the wind and sun ever present in our sphere create an infinite opportunity for these countries.
Energy situation in Suriname is not that bad. And if you look at all the plans we have for the near future, then the prospects are very good.
However, the situation in Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago is unique, and even as these countries, along with other member states within CARICOM, consider their productive futures, the real situation becomes far more complex. Perhaps the greatest challenge to the sustainable development of our economies is to secure access to a reliable and affordable supply of clean energy. Recognizing that energy is central to human activity and economic well-being, the member states of the Caribbean community have resolved to take decisive action towards redesigning the existing paradigm by harnessing existing energy resources within our borders towards the development of self-sustaining economies.
The vision, therefore, for the region is to really have member states, or the region for that matter, fully explore its energy resources, whether it be the conventional or renewable energy. Renewable energy is critical because really all countries are endowed with some form or the other.
Governments seek public support in realizing the regional vision for the reform and development of the energy sector. It is significant that a regional energy policy is still in the making as heads of government press for a thorough and comprehensive strategy for reform of the sector. In March of 2011, energy ministers of member states were presented with a gap analysis report which assesses current member states' priorities within the sector.
The gap analysis concluded that the policy needed to be strengthened in a number of areas, including to look at the whole issue of energy in relation to the transport sector, and also look at possibilities for other renewable energy potential in the region, such as geothermal, that was not taken into account in the initial draft policy. It also looked at the issue of energy in relation to disaster preparedness.
The proposed energy policy will be based upon 5 overreaching goals: sustainability and security of supplies, optimization and utilization of energy in an environmentally friendly manner, compatibility with economic development and macroeconomic sustainability, and promoting regional industry competitiveness. The final regional energy policy document will reflect a regional convergence of minds. There is no escaping the fact that energy is a vital ingredient to development. There is a strong link between the gross domestic product of a country and its energy consumption, as energy is used to drive the economic sectors. The inverse relationship between energy and economic activity is recognized by governments, and in difficult economic times, countries that produce their own energy are able to cushion the impact of challenges.
Without energy, you have no economic growth, you have no education. The people that are earning less money, they have to also pay their bills. That's why the government is holding the tariff for this moment at a low price for some people.
As countries of the region grow and develop, their demand for energy increases. In order to sustain development initiatives, however, the energy intensity or efficient use of energy within the region needs to increase as well. Academics express the view that countries within the region that are already exploiting indigenous energy resources may be well positioned to invest in new technology while broadening the resource base.
We are probably best poised to develop renewable energy technologies here in Trinidad and Tobago because we are perhaps the only ones who have the resources to help develop renewable energy technologies. And if you do not have the initial input, you really have to depend on foreign aid all the time. So we can actually develop some of the renewable energy technologies here in Trinidad, which will help secure our own future and also that of the Caribbean region.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago, while enjoying the benefits of a natural gas and oil base, recognizing the finite nature of these resources, has embarked on a program of renewable energy development as part of the redefinition of its energy base. The government-owned University of Trinidad and Tobago now offers training in the field of renewable energy and green technology. Beyond this, national scholarships are being made available by the government for tertiary education in the field of renewable energy.
Even in my own home country, Trinidad and Tobago, we've seen the effects of oil depletion, and we're still seeing it. As a result, I proposed that I undertake a course of study in which I looked at what it took and what it will take actually to transition to renewable energy, and my government decided it was a good idea, and as such I'm on a National Development Scholarship of Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm undertaking this course of study now.
It's a case where it's a no-win situation.
Hers is not an isolated voice. There is some degree of recognition amongst the public that the Caribbean must take decisive action to reject the economic modus operandi that has been forced upon us as a result of our relative position in the global situation. Globally, fossil fuels such as oil and gas are largely used to power industry and transportation and ensure the provision of some basic necessities such as lighting, cooling, and heating. The global situation is mirrored regionally. Fossil fuels are convenient because they are reliable, easy to transport, and relatively easy to use. However, fossil fuels can be found in only a very limited number of countries and off their coasts, which means that most countries are gross importers of energy. Growing global populations and improving standards of living juxtaposed against reducing oil reserves have led to increasing oil prices. The economic grouping of oil-producing and exporting countries, OPEC, further is uniquely positioned to artificially determine oil prices. This, added to continued instability in the Middle East, where a large number of the world's oil is produced, leads to high and fluctuating oil prices, which has the contingent effect of creating economic instability within importing states. When energy costs increase on the world market, the cost of many other goods and services, food, travel, and health services also increase, leading to problems that affect the quality of life of the peoples of the world. High production costs mean that in countries like ours, industrial development is threatened.
Social and political unrest in many oil-producing areas have maintained the upward pressure on oil prices and have reinforced the swings in the energy sector. Such behavior, it has to be conceded, impairs the competitiveness of our economy through very high electricity tariffs, among the highest in the world, and reduces our level of national output through the large sums of foreign exchange we must use to acquire imported fuels.
At the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum 2011, the Prime Minister of Barbados called on Caribbean governments to move quickly, purposefully, and sure-footedly to reduce our vulnerability to the outside world. The increased consumption of fossil fuels can also have a negative impact on the environment. In addition to the danger of oil spills during transportation and recovery, the combustion of fossil fuels for energy leads to air pollution and, most importantly, climate change. Climate change is the result of global warming caused by the release of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels. The expected impacts of climate change on the Caribbean are many, including increased flooding, drought, destruction of coral reefs, loss of agricultural land, and loss of critical infrastructure. In the immediate, these climatic disasters lead to injuries and loss of life, as well as destruction of land mass and other property. Later, these could result in a significant economic and social burden for the region. As the region is amongst the most vulnerable parts of the world to climate change, countries must join efforts to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change. This is important even if the contribution of the Caribbean to global greenhouse gases is negligible. As we reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, we increase the strength of our moral and ideological position relating to the protection of the environment from devastation and degradation resulting from greenhouse gas emissions. Making renewable energy, also known as alternative energy, central to national and regional economic development is a real possibility for our states. There is a general perception that a few select countries control the global energy base, but in fact, this is not entirely true. Renewable energy resources, if harnessed, will change our relative dynamic in the Caribbean's favor. Many of the CARICOM member states have sufficient renewable energy potential to supply their own domestic electricity needs, and in some member states, there is enough of the resource to export to other countries through submarine and overhead cables. Increased exploitation of renewable energy sources could create a paradigm shift where many of the energy importing countries within CARICOM could become exporters of energy, leading to increased export earnings and energy security, reduced import bills for oil-dependent countries, the development of indigenous resources, an enhanced balance of payments position, and greater national development. Recognizing the importance of energy, many Caribbean countries are developing policy frameworks that promote the use of renewable energy and energy efficiency. In some countries like Guyana, an official policy exists. In others, like Barbados, one is in the making.
Now, Barbados is determined to achieve these objectives and has therefore been pushing ahead aggressively to implement a program to promote energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy. We are of the firm conviction that the implementation of our sustainable energy framework will assist us in restructuring our economy.
To erect a solar panel for your use in the home, it's not very difficult. You can go to the supplier of that panel, purchase it, and install it. The exemption is already given to that panel, so they do not pay the cost of duty and VAT on the panel. It is just the cost of procurement and the cost of installation.
Guyana's energy policy is focused on providing affordable, reliable, and clean energy to its people. Guyana recently launched a low-carbon development strategy which incorporates the use of alternative energy as one of the 3 pillars of the strategy. A fundamental component of the Guyana government's low-carbon development strategy is the development of a large hydropower station.
What we have been focused on is educating the masses on the kind of designs that would be suitable for buildings that will promote the effective and efficient use of energy.
The policy is supported by a practical strategy that will promote new energy options and provide incentives for persons wishing to invest in alternative energy.
The Amila Falls hydroelectric plant will supply approximately 165 megawatts of power to our national grid. That is in excess of our current demand and is certainly expected to meet our current and medium-term demand for energy in the country.
In Guyana, the national electricity utility company Guyana Power and Light has between 110 and 130 megawatts of installed capacity. With a population of approximately 750,000 people over a landmass measuring 76,000 square miles, this installed capacity is insufficient to meet demands. The country experiences severe problems with reliability and blackouts. To address this problem, several businesses in Guyana have turned to self-generation, and it is estimated that this has resulted in the addition of a further 70 megawatts of electricity generating potential. In response to the pressing need for more energy, the Guyana government has invested in the Skeldon cogeneration facility, which has 2 steam engine machines and a total installed capacity of almost 30 megawatts of electricity. Skeldon, located on Guyana's border with Suriname, uses diffusion technology to extract sugar from cane at a rate of 8,400 tons of cane per day.
The cane will be fed manually into these conveyors and it will go to a series of knives. We have 3 knives, a leveler, and I have a duty and a shredder. This is to create maximum cell exposure so that we can have extraction. Our plant has a diffuser, which is a technology in the Caribbean. This is the first of its kind. So we don't have the mill, we have a diffuser. So the maximum cell exposure, maximum extraction for us. So if you look at here, you will see the trade that it goes through for preparation. So the cane is being prepared for extraction.
After the juice is extracted from the cane, the residual matter called bagasse is used as a biofuel to turn turbines for the generation of energy. The Guyana government expects that in the medium term, between the Skeldon facility and hydropower sources, it will be able to meet much of the needs of the country. Biodiesels are proving to be a viable option for transportation in Guyana. Palm oil production in Region 1 is being increased to produce more feedstock for biodiesel production. This initiative, supported by the Institute of Applied Sciences and Technology, will facilitate the use of biodiesel by a wider range of customers in that area. The university now has a fully functional station and conducts rigorous quality assurance testing to ensure high-quality biodiesel is being produced. In order to produce biodiesel at the institute, used vegetable oil collected from fast food restaurants and outlets is boiled to remove all water that may have been mixed into the substance as a first step.
After boiling the oil, we transfer the oil to the reactor for mixing. Then methoxide is added and leave to spin for at least 30 minutes. After mixing, the mixer is then transferred to the separation tank. After separating for at least 24 hours, biodiesel is then transferred to the wash tank for washing for at least 48 hours. Then, after washing, is then transferred to the clarifier tank for a clarification. After clarification, the diesel is then analyzed in our laboratory with state-of-the-art equipment using specification from ASTM standards.
Biodiesel is being explored as an alternative energy option in Barbados as well. In some instances, within the sugar industry, used oil is utilized as part of the production process.
Yes, we produce the rum or the alcohol more or less from molasses, not cane palm molasses. As I say, we go through the fermentation process, whatever. We have to make sure all the areas are clean, stained, tidy, to prevent any bacteria creeping into the plant.
Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago have been able to achieve almost 100% electrification on their landmass. On Suriname, however, similar to Guyana, major logistical challenges associated with landmass and accessibility have resulted in limited electrification. The government is satisfied that in the capital Paramaribo and on the coast, reasonably good progress has been made, but in the interior, levels of electrification are extremely low.
But the situation in the hinterland is not that good. We have to do something to give the people constant energy so that they can pay also for that. Till now, they are not paying for the energy they are getting from the government. It is the government that's providing them with energy, and the cost of it is almost 40 to 50 million Surinamese in SRD, and that's a lot of money.
The government of Suriname plans to provide the people of the hinterland with 24 hours electricity within a few years. In the immediate, 3 large villages are to be equipped with 160 kilowatt machines, which are expected to provide 24-hour electricity services. A major part of the solution to the problem of limited electrification for Guyana and Suriname lies in their hydropower potential. These continental states, measuring collectively a total of approximately 140,000 square miles, have the benefit of vast inland water resources. A large part of the electricity being generated in Suriname is powered by water resources, but this is at a substantial cost to investors.
First of all, Suriname is not a land that we can generate, how can I say, energy by water, because the landscape is too flat. We have to get deeper, okay, to get a higher till, okay. But we have some place where we can generate some energy from water, and that we are going to do in the east of Suriname. We're going to build a new dam, and the old one is still being used, but we're going to fill it up with some, how can I say, building up more dams upstream to get more water into the dam.
Already, the Kabelebo hydroelectric project generates between 450 and 650 megawatts. Fortunately for the government, the technical expertise necessary for the construction of more dams can be sourced locally in part. Electricity from running water such as rivers has the potential to transform the electricity sector in Guyana as well. Perhaps the most important development thus far is ongoing work on the 154 megawatt hydroelectric plant in Amaila Falls, expected to be completed in 2014. This plant is expected to feed directly into the grid and will therefore reduce the need for oil imports and energy costs. The construction of the plant will also help to generate employment and enhance the scientific and technological capacity of the country. The plan remains conservative, as recent studies estimate that there is a potential of 7,000 megawatts of hydropower in Guyana, creating enough capacity to supply all of CARICOM through an interconnection arrangement. Consideration is being given to this option by the National Public Authority, and plans are expected to be made in this regard. Solar energy is proving to be economically feasible in the region as the technology matures and the prices decrease. The regional enthusiasm for solar energy development results from the general perception that power derived from the sun remains the most abundant resource in our territories. Barbados stands out regionally as the champion of solar energy. For some time now, the government of Barbados has provided an enabling environment that encourages the development of solar energy. Residents have enjoyed tax allowances on the purchase cost of solar water heaters, leading to one of the highest solar water heater penetration levels in the world.
And back in 2003, we did have a program sponsored by the United States Agency for International Development, in which they reviewed the performance of solar water heaters in Barbados. At that time, they worked out that Barbadians had saved $260 million in energy costs as a result of using solar hot water systems.
The use of photovoltaic systems for residential and commercial buildings is increasing in Barbados, and in 2010, the electric utility provider Barbados Light and Power Company, with the approval of the regulator, initiated a solar interconnection program for customers who wished to install solar voltaic systems on their rooftops to feed electricity into the grid. The system has been embraced by customers with the means to utilize it, but the energy balance in Barbados, which produces very limited quantities of oil, remains largely unchanged by this offer. The electric utility provider has a demonstrated desire to rebalance the energy equation, but continues to place, understandably, a reliable supply of electricity as the major item on its agenda.
Well, for the electric utility, I think the challenge really is to ensure that while we're certainly adapting and bringing in these resources, some of which are intermittent, like the sun doesn't shine, unfortunately, 24 hours a day, and we have to deliver power 24 hours a day, even at night when we have our peak, integrating those types of sources into the grid, and yet ensuring that we have the capacity to meet the customer's needs, that we have the confidence of the regulator to get a fair return for the investors in the utility, as well as providing the types of rates that will make the renewable initiatives attractive. So it's a different market and different model to what existed 20 years ago.
As the government of Barbados plans to increase public interest in photovoltaic technology, it offers incentives to prospective purchasers. The import duties on these items have been removed, and in an effort to increase the competitive position of solar electric systems, government since 2008 has been offering a $25,000 income tax deduction over a 5-year period to customers who purchase photovoltaic units. High targets reflect great ambitions.
Barbados government is cognizant of the need for the world to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases in order to mitigate climate change. And we believe that a single house, as it is a single swallow not making spring, is not the success that we're looking for. So we are not only putting the incentives in place for householders, But we are actually looking to the future of having a 3,000 house per year program, 3,000 solar systems going on houses in Barbados per year.
The government of Barbados is also currently seeking to expand the use of photovoltaic systems on government buildings for practical and demonstrative purposes. Such efforts have led to the construction of a model solar house in Queen's Park, Bridgetown. The use of solar energy in Guyana and Suriname could help address a number of problems, especially in the electrification of homes and storage facilities in rural areas. With the assistance of agencies such as the Canadian International Development Agency (CEDA), the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP), and the Latin American Energy Organization, photovoltaic systems have been used in Guyana to provide light by night for children needing to study and other general purposes. They have also been used by the Ministries of Health and Agriculture to power cool storage for medicines and food and pumping water from wells. Although the contribution of solar panels to Guyana's electricity mix is still relatively small, a proposal to the Japanese government to build a 1 megawatt photovoltaic farm behind Eccles Industrial Estate could mean that photovoltaic installations move from being supplied individually to supplying a community and eventually feeding into the national grid. This would represent a giant step forward for solar energy in the Caribbean. The government of Guyana has put incentives in place to demonstrate its commitment to the development of solar energy.
At present, the legislation provides duty and VAT exemptions for all solar panels and windmills. All equipment used for the generation of electricity that comes from a renewable source are currently granted duty and VAT exemptions.
The government of Suriname has been considering the development of solar energy in the hinterland, where challenges to electrification inhibit development.
We have some experiments in the interior area, and right now we are looking for putting ICT section in the interior with solar energy and driven by solar energy.
Most territories of the Caribbean have also been endowed with abundant wind resources. In particular, heavy winds often beat upon the eastern shores of the islands, inspiring governments to explore wind energy development potential. Despite many challenges to its development, wind energy seems destined to be part of the future of Barbados. The island lies in the path of the northeast trade winds, and its flat topography creates an ideal environment for wind power. Although land availability for large wind parks may prove a challenge, there is much potential for distributed generation in the form of single wind turbines.
We're basically looking at a distributed generation approach for commercial scale wind turbines to produce electricity which will be sold to the local utility, Barbados Light and Power, under a long-term power purchase agreement. And rather than building large wind farms in one location, we're looking at more of a distributed generation approach where we can go into agricultural lands primarily and put a single turbine in a cane field rather than build 10 or 12 machines in one location.
Electric utility-operated wind energy systems are of necessity supported by backup power from secondary sources to compensate for the inconsistency of the wind.
When the wind in October is quiet, we have to still deliver power.
On the continent, wind velocity levels are comparatively low, and therefore the potential for wind energy development while present is limited. Areas near the coast of Guyana and Suriname present some possibilities, and authorities are exploring options. In 2004, the University of Suriname partnered with the Caribbean Renewable Energy Development Program to take wind speed measurements at a height of 30 meters on 2 sites, including one on the east coast.
According to the specialist, Mr. Yarstoff, we have the minimum speed here in Suriname. Average minimum speed at the height of 30 meters that we can start do some pre-feasibility study to develop wind energy in Suriname.
It was finally determined that wind energy development in the areas considered is practicable, and wind energy specialist Benjamin Jackstroff recommended the construction of a 30 megawatt wind turbine park to be connected to the grid. Clearly, there is good reason for the Caribbean to diversify its energy mix by incorporating renewables. The choice available to each country will depend on the natural resources available and the cost. A good understanding of the potential for technology transfer is also needed, which means that countries must continue to build the research capabilities for energy in the region and must ensure that they have human capacity to develop and maintain a robust renewable energy industry. Energy efficiency must be an integral part of the energy strategies for the future so that we can increase our optimum use of energy. The increasing demand for energy and the looming problem of climate change further strengthen the call for clean, sustainable energy sources for the islands. The region stands to benefit significantly from sustainable energy, and it is not a choice of if, but how quickly we can move to embrace renewable energy and energy efficiency. Governments have made sustainable energy a priority.
Energy conservation must be the focus of the whole region. We save energy, we save money, and let's make a commitment to save the environment. We must use energy better, stop depleting the ozone layer, and if we take care of Mother Nature, she will care for us in the future. Think efficiency as we move with urgency towards renewable energy. Renewable energy. Think efficiency as we move with urgency towards renewable energy. Renewable energy. Renewable energy must be top priority. Let's think first of all geothermal, wind and sun energy. Hydroelectricity will save the environment, create new forms of employment. Energy more secure, we can look to a better future. Think efficiency as we move with urgency towards renewable energy. Renewable energy. Think efficiency as we move with urgency towards renewable energy. Renewable energy.
What are you doing? Why you put off all my things?
You have the charger plugged in, no phone. You have the computer on, it's still on the same page from yesterday. Radio on and you're not even listening. Water wasting. You know it requires electricity for the water to flow through the tap. If you're not using it, turn it off and unplug the cable from the switch. You opened the fridge and didn't close it properly. You wasting electricity that your parents have to pay for.
Oh, that's why my parents always complaining about the electricity bill. I remember that. And I think I'll tell my parents the fridge is too close to the stove. I remember my teacher spoke to us about that.